Hey everyone, today I'm proud to announce that I'm finally part of the Fairy Gym Leader here on Dystoria. This is the Fairy Gym and it's really well built, and honestly, I think it looks really cool. Perfect for a Fairy Gym Leader. In this video, I'll be taking you through the entire process of becoming a gym leader, including how my own application went from start to finish. Hopefully, by the end of this video, some of you will feel inspired to also apply for a gym of your own. Before we get started, here's a bit of background about me so you know what level I was getting into this. When it came to competitive Pokemon, I was pretty much a complete beginner. This was my first time actually playing in a competitive environment, and most of what I knew beforehand came from watching YouTube videos and team showcases. So, why did I decide to apply for the Fairy Gym? Well, I've always wanted to build a team around Mega Gardevoir. Gardevoir has been one of my favorite Pokemons, and I've used her in almost every mainline Pokemon game I've played. Unfortunately, during testing, I just couldn't make Mega Gardevoir work as well as I wanted to. So, she never actually made it onto my final gym application team. But while experimenting, I started appreciating fairy types as a whole. And that's pretty much where my interest in fairy Pokemon really began. As for wanting to become a gym leader, a lot of my friends on the server were already gym leaders, and seeing them made me want to give it a shot too. They also helped me a ton while I was building and testing my team, so huge shout out to all of them on the screen. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into how the whole application process went. So, to start the application process, you'll first need to create a ticket in Dystoria's Discord and click the applications button. From there, just mention that you'd like to apply as a gym leader and specify which gym you're applying for. If you're curious, here's exactly what I wrote in my own application. Once you submit your ticket, a gym manager will get back to you. In my case, it was Winnie. And I'd like to give them a huge thank you for being incredibly supportive and insightful throughout the entire process. The application itself is split into two main parts. The first is team building. Here, you'll create a national Dex Legal team using Pokemon Showdown. If you're planning to use this story exclusive Pokemon, you can still put it on Pokemon Showdown by using a Ditto and matching its abilities, moves, stats, and everything else. The second part is the test battles. This is where you'll battle another gym leader using the team you've built. You can choose to do these battles either on Pokemon Showdown or in-game. However, if your team includes a Dystoria Pokemon, you'll need to do the battles in-game. Once your test battles are over, the gym leaders will discuss your performance and hold a vote. After that, you'll be notified whether you've been accepted or rejected. If you get accepted, congratulations! And if you don't let it discourage you. You can always apply again after a week. And yes, before anyone asks, I failed my first try. And I also failed my second. It took me 3 whole attempts before I was finally able to get accepted into the Fairy Gym. So if there's one thing I hope you take away from this video, it's that getting rejected isn't the end. Keep moving forward, keep learning, and keep trying. If I could make it on my 3rd attempt with absolutely no experience at all, I'm sure you can too. So this was the team I used for my first attempt. My lead was Alola Ninetales running Snow Warning so I could set up Aurora Veil right away. I gave it Light Clay to extend Aurora Veil's duration, and I invested heavily into speed and HP so it had the best chance of moving first while hopefully surviving at least one hit if I couldn't get Veil up immediately. Next was Tapu Lele. Running a pretty standard Choice Scarf set, the extra speed lets it outspeed a lot of threats while Psychic Surge blocks priority moves like Bullet Punch, making it much safer to play aggressively. I also had a physical Iron Valiant holding a Life Orb. At first, I thought this set would be really strong, but the more I played, the more I realized I wasn't getting the most out of my Iron Valiant strengths. It definitely hits hard, but looking back, I probably wouldn't recommend this set unless you're just aiming for raw damage. For my Mega, I chose Mega Mawile. With huge power, it hits incredibly hard, and its coverage made it a great offensive threat that could pressure a lot of different matchups. Then, there was Galarian Weezing, which served as one of my defensive backbones. Besides being really bulky, it also gave me hazard removal with Defog, and it would usually be my safest switch whenever I needed something that could comfortably take a hit. Finally, my Dystoria Pokemon was Iron Grinder, a fairy ground type with Quark Drive. I paired it with Booster Energy to immediately boost its physical offense and turn it into a really threatening sweeper. One quick note though, in the current patch, Iron Grinder is commonly played with Shift Gear, which boosts both its attack and speed by a huge amount. I thought of choosing not to use that set because it's getting removed in the next patch. Some people might say that was a bad decision, while others would call it the more ethical choice. I guess I'll let you decide. For my first application, I was matched against Shadow, one of the people who actually helped me build my team, and the current water gym leader of Dystoria. He brought a pretty standard rain team, but with Dystoria's version of Tyranitar having Drizzle, let's just say things did not go well for me. I got absolutely demolished, and yeah, I was a little salty afterwards. We played a second match, and even though I still lost, I felt like I performed much better. It was a much closer game, and I could already see myself improving. After reviewing the battles, the gym leaders gave their feedback. They pointed out that some of my Pokemons weren't really optimal in terms of their moveset, and that I made quite a few questionable plays during the matches. Looking back, I completely agree with them. So my first application ended in rejection. I had to wait another week before I could apply again. But instead of getting discouraged, I used that time to improve my team and fix the mistakes they pointed out. After waiting a week, it was time for my second attempt, and this time I made a few major changes to the team. The biggest one was replacing Alolan Ninetales with Ribombee holding a Focus Sash. The idea was to reliably set up Sticky Web for speed control, while Stun Spore gave me another way to slow down opposing Pokemon. I also swapped Iron Valiant's item to boost their energy, which finally allowed it to take full advantage of Quark Drive. Looking back, this was definitely a much better fit than Life Orb. Another big change was replacing Mega Mawile with Mega Diancie. Honestly, there wasn't any deep strategy behind it, I just wanted to see how Mega Diancie would perform. Whether it's better or worse than Mega Mawile really depends on the matchup and what you're personally more comfortable using. My last major change was replacing Galarian Weezing with Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini offered similar bulk, but it also had the option to set up with Calm Mind and recover health with Draining Kiss, while still being able to use Defog for hazard removal. I also made a few smaller adjustments here and there. For example, Iron Grinder now ran Smackdown and Iron Valiant picked up Encore. But overall, the biggest experiment for this attempt was changing my lead and seeing how a more speed-controlled focus strategy would perform. Around this point, one of the biggest concerns people had with my team was that I was running two terrain setters, Tapu Lele and Tapu Fini. But honestly, I liked having both. Tapu Lele's Psychic Terrain blocks priority moves, which lets my offensive Pokemon play much more aggressively without having to worry about things like Bullet Punch or other priority attacks that would stop a sweep. Meanwhile, Tapu Fini's Misty Terrain protects grounded Pokemon from status conditions, so I didn't have to constantly worry about being put to sleep, burned, paralyzed, or poisoned, which, admittedly, was something that tilted me a lot. So despite what people were saying, I decided to stick with both terrain setters. Not only did they give me a sense of security, but I also found that having two terrain setters often caught opponents off guard. It wasn't the most convenient approach, but I felt like it worked to my advantage more often than not. For my second application, I was matched against Ainrath, the current Dystoria champion and Psychic gym leader. So yeah, it was basically a nuclear bomb versus a coughing baby. Compared to my first application, this one wasn't even close. I got absolutely destroyed, and across both battles, I don't think I even managed to take down half their team. To Ainrath's credit though, they were incredibly nice about it. They even said they felt a little bad for how one-sided the battles were. And afterwards, they took the time to give me some encouragement and advice, which I really appreciated. Once again, the feedback centered around my misplays and a lot of unnecessary sacrifices. But honestly, I think I was just completely mental boomed. I was playing against one of the best competitive players on the server, someone I genuinely looked up to, so I definitely wasn't playing my best. And just like that, it was another rejection. Back to the drawing board for attempt number 3. And finally, this is the team that got me accepted. One of the biggest changes was bringing Alolan Ninetales back. I really missed the amount of bulk Aurora Veil provided, but this time, I adjusted its moveset based on all the feedback I received from my previous applications. I also switched back to Mega Mawile as I realized I missed the offensive pressure and coverage it provided while still being surprisingly bulky. Compared to Mega Diancie, Mega Mawile could take hits much more comfortably, especially since Mega Diancie's defensive stats actually drop after it Mega Evolves. The last major change was replacing Tapu Fini with Tapu Koko. This ended up being one of my most favorite adjustments, as Electric Surge automatically activates Quark Drive for both Iron Valiant and Iron Grinder, meaning they don't have to immediately consume their booster energy just to get their ability online. On top of that, Tapu Koko gives me a fast pivot with U-turn while still carrying defog so I don't lose my hazard removal. I did consider replacing booster energy on Iron Valiant and Iron Grinder with something more offensive like Life Orb, but in the end, I decided to keep booster energy. The reason is pretty simple. Once electric terrain disappears, Quark Drive becomes inactive. Having booster energy gives me a backup plan, ensuring they can still activate Quark Drive later in the battle even if Tapu Koko is gone or the terrain has expired. That consistency felt much more valuable than a little extra damage. For my third and final application, I was matched against Metalhead, the current Steel Gym Leader, who also occasionally subs in for the Ground Gym. I've battled Metal before, but only in casual matches. Going into this one, I was honestly paranoid about their Hisuian Zoroark, because somehow, that's always the Pokemon that catches me off guard. In the first battle, I managed to come out on top. I'll admit though, it wasn't just good plays on my end. I got a bit lucky with RNG, and there were a couple of moments where Metal misread my plays or got some unfortunate damage rolls. The second battle was much more tougher, and this time I ended up losing. But despite us splitting the set, both games were incredibly close, and we both had a lot of fun. It really felt like either one of us could have swept if just a few turns had gone differently. I still received some feedback afterwards, mainly about my double terrain setup again, and my overall tempo management. But honestly, I'm sticking with the team. I genuinely believe this setup has potential, and now that I'm officially a Fairy Gym Leader, I'll be doing my best to prove that it works. And with that comes the end of my journey to becoming the Fairy Gym Leader. It definitely wasn't the fastest journey, and it certainly wasn't the easiest. But looking back, I'm really glad it happened this way because I learned so much through team building, battling, and talking with other gym leaders who were willing to share their advice and feedback. If there's one thing I hope you take away from this video, it's that you shouldn't be afraid to apply yourself. Even if you don't get accepted the first time, or even the second time, every attempt is a chance to improve. So if you've ever thought about becoming a gym leader, I hope my journey gives you that little push to go for it. That's going to be it for this video. Sorry it's been a while since my last upload. I've been pretty busy with school, but I finally found some free time to sit down and record this video. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you'd like to see more Dystoria content in the future. This has been Shimoto. Until next time, peace out.